All right, welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Rob Goodyear, the co-owner of Elite Alliance. We met a couple years ago and we've been exchanging ideas and opportunities. And our new project, Oceana, located here in the Cabo Corridor, is now offering fractional ownership. I thought it would be a great idea to sit down with Rob now that he's in town here in Cabo for a couple days and talk about what is fractionals, why it's something that we should be paying attention to. And I know you're going to get a lot of great value. I have my list of questions here. So, Rob, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
For everyone that doesn't know what fractional ownership is, how would you answer that question? What is fractional ownership?
Well, people have been fractionalizing homes for decades. I mean, think back to the old ski resorts. People used to take a ski bungalow and four buddies would couple together and fractionalize it. They'd have to figure out who was going to use it when, how it's going to work, what's it going to look like, who's going to pay the bills, all those different things. And then over time, timeshare came into the scene, usually a fixed week or a points-based system. So fast forward to where we are today, fractional ownership, residence club ownership has become pretty popular, especially during the shared economy. People are looking at alternative ways to owning these types of real estate or any kind of asset, quite frankly. And fractional ownership just makes more sense than trying to buy it outright.
Why is that? Why would it make more sense to own a fraction as opposed to full ownership?
A couple key reasons. One is usage. Most people only use a vacation home 30 to 35 days a year. I mean, there's a ton of statistics on that. No matter how you look at it, when people buy a vacation home, there's typically just a couple of things that are a deterrent to it. One is, how often am I actually going to use it? Can I justify purchasing this entire home, knowing that I'm only going to use it 30 to 35 days out of the year because I have to pay all the expenses that go along with it, whether they're there or not.
Right.
Becoming an absentee owner, especially if you're in the U.S. coming to Mexico, can be pretty daunting. I mean, that's kind of tough stuff, especially if you've never done it before or you don't want to handle all those different nuances of owning a vacation home. And then, the other factor is, am I going to feel anchored to one location? I put all my eggs in that basket. So guess what? Every time we take a vacation, we're going to go there.
Right.
And that's fun for a couple of years, but boy, does that lose its luster after time, because then you really feel like, well, guess what? We're going right back to the same place because we have all of our money tied up in that one location.
I actually hear that a lot from our buyers that have owned it for a few years, and I get the call, the email,
Yep.
"Hey, Nick, I'd like to talk about selling my place." And when I ask them, why are you wanting to sell now? They say, Cabo is great. The property is great. Life changes. Our kids are more grown up. We have grandkids and we want to be more back home, or we feel like we're always coming back to Cabo when we have a vacation or free time and we're not traveling as much.
Yeah. So one thing we found over the years is that fractional ownership becomes an incubator for whole ownership and vice versa. Going back to your philosophy of, people's lives change. My kids are getting older now.
Yeah.
So my wife and I are looking for a location where we can be for a longer period of time. Whereas when we were younger, we were bouncing all around at different locations. And the same thing happens on the back end of life.
Right.
So this is a great way to do it. It's a great opportunity. I'm excited about what we're doing here. This is fun stuff.
You mentioned timeshare just a little bit ago. Is fractional timeshare?
No. So timeshare, again, is going to be traditionally a right to use or a points-based program. Fractional ownership is vastly different. It's going to be a deeded real estate. You're sharing typically a 1/8, 1/6, 1/10, depending upon the location and seasonality, but you're actually buying a 1/8 undivided interest into that home. You have equal usage of the home with the other 7 owners. And when we set up residence clubs, we're actually looking at creating an enclave of homes, like what we're doing at Oceana, where we're taking 5 properties within, a network of homes and creating a club, very much like a member equity golf club. Whereas timeshare, you're again usually buying a specific period of time, and you're buying a specific a number of points to be able to utilize within the property. Fractional ownership is going to follow the traditional appreciation of of a whole ownership vacation resort property. Whereas timeshare, I've had discussions with timeshare owners and they loved it for the 15 years that they own it. But at the end, it's usually just I'm turning it back into the property, or I'm going to get, literally a fraction, no pun intended, a fraction of what they paid
Right.
for it. So a lot of times when people buy timeshare, they're looking at it and saying, I'm going to own this for 15 years. It cost me X amount. And I'm just going to build that into my annual mindset that I'm paying for those prepaid vacations against it. Because at the end, it's going to diminish down to nothing.
Okay. So fractional is a true investment.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are a few projects that do have fractionals here in Los Cabos. Most of them, from what I've seen, is you're tied to a specific unit and the usage is fixed.
Mhm.
You mentioned the club.
Mhm.
How is a residential club that is built on top of the fractional model
Mhm.
different from, let's say, your traditional fractional model that I see here in Cabo?
Yeah. So the way we've structured clubs over the past 30 plus years is owners are being deeded into a specific unit. However, they can stay in any of the units within their bedroom category. So if they're buying into that 3-bedroom category, and if you and I were both an owner of the 8 in that specific unit, then one of us would get to go and one of us wouldn't
Mhm.
on a specific vacation of
Mhm.
of our choosing. Whereas if you have a network of homes that are part of a club environment, you and I can both satisfy our vacation needs, even though we're deeded into the same unit, because you and I can stay in different units outside of the one that we're deeded into. It also gives us the opportunity to allow owners to make reservations where they can be linked together, or even they can occupy more than one residence for a specific period of time,
Mhm.
because you can stay in any of those different units that are within your bedroom category. So what we tried to create was almost like a country club model. When you think about a country club, everybody pays the same amount to join. That's our purchase price. Everybody pays the same amount in annual dues, which covers the expenses regardless of occupancy or play on the golf course.
Right.
The golf course is open, the club is open. Come and use it as much as you want. And we'll find over the years that some owners use it 2, 3, 4 weeks a year on an 8-to-1 ownership,
Mhm.
which means others can use it 6, 7, 8 times a year. And you say, well, how does that math work out? If there's 8 owners times 6 weeks, that's 48. Who gets the other 4 weeks? So kind of take that out of your mindset and look at it and say, it's very much like a country club. Some are going to use it less, so that means others can use it more. And, back to your philosophy, life changes. My kids are graduating I had one from college this year. I've got one coming up to high school next year. So everything is in flux right now for us. We've got a busy, busy time. So we're only taking a couple of vacations. But once those kids are done, we're going to take a lot more vacations.
Right.
So right now we're using the club less, which means you can use it more, and vice versa.
Mm. I'm going to go back
Mhm.
to how you got into this industry. You've been in the business for a few decades.
Mhm.
Give us the origin story on Elite Alliance.
Yeah, so my partner Steve created the concept
Mhm.
of residence clubs, and he was working in Park City, Utah on a condo project. And what he quickly realized was that the homeowners buying, or in that case, not buying into this condo project, just couldn't justify purchasing a unit at $1 million when they're only going to use it for 30 days out of the year.
Sure.
So he created this concept, went really well, took off. And then over the years, what we realized were the management of these types of properties is more difficult than a traditional hotel, because you have the homeowners association obligations, meetings, minutes,
Right.
financial statements, all those obligations. So you couldn't hire a hotelier to do it, but you also couldn't hire an HOA manager. So we created our own hospitality division. And then what we found was that release of the anchor was really difficult when you don't have that opportunity to exchange. So after I think this second, third, fourth club that they did,
Mhm.
they realized we need to find some mechanism to allow people to trade time back and forth. And at the time, we couldn't use interval or RCI because it didn't fit the model of what we were selling. So we created our own. And fast forward, we're over 11,000 members, 120 different destinations around the world. So our business model is basically a circle where we can have real estate sales, consulting on the fractional side. We've got hospitality management and rental, and then we've got our exchange program. So each of those feeds off of each other. Obviously, the management is just an obligation. Most developers don't want to be a part of it. We do. You do.
Yep.
So it's interesting that we can offer that service to resort developers,
Mhm.
which is great. The exchange program helps feed into the sales and marketing of what we're doing. So it plays onto each other.
Okay.
Mm.
And the exchange program,
Mhm.
how does that work? And as a fractional owner, what are the pluses?
Mhm.
And after that, we'll go into some of the maybe negatives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a traditional exchange program. There's really no mystery behind it, but owners will reserve time at their home property.
Mhm.
Then they would deposit that time into our exchange program. We issue travel currency that's good for 2 years. And the inventory is created in the program by the 11,000 members doing the same thing.
Okay.
So members here at Oceana will put their time into the exchange program, and members in Bermuda will do the exact same. It's not a one-for-one exchange. It's not a home swap program. So the owners don't meet each other. They don't need to correspond with each other. It's very much a curated situation where they give us time, and then we afford them the opportunity on a platform to be able to trade time into other locations.
Okay. So as a fractional owner in Oceana or any of the projects that we're working on together,
Yep.
they will get a user ID and password like a membership.
Yeah, yeah. So part of our partnership is we're affording everybody a 2-year
Yeah.
premium membership into the club, so they have that opportunity to participate in our exchange program. After those 2 years, so long as they remain active in our exchange, they don't have to pay a membership fee, but they'll get a username and password. They'll also get a concierge that's assigned to them out of our offices. And that person gets to know your family, your likes, your dislikes,
Yeah.
who and how you travel, um, and what vacations you're looking for. And, our platform is easy enough to use where members can go on and they can, do what they want at any hour of the day. But probably 70% of our members just liaison with their concierge.
Okay.
They just call them and say, here's what we want, you set to work. And our team is actually incentivized to go and find them the vacations that they're looking for.
Okay.
So
And different locations that you represent, you mentioned 120 destinations. Where are those destinations?
All over. So we've got Canada, US, Mexico. We've got Argentina, Costa Rica, and then all over Europe, and Caribbean, Bermuda.
Okay.
So pretty well spread out.
Ski resorts,
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
other beach locations,
Yep.
metropolitan, urban type settings
Yep.
like New York.
New York. Yep.
Okay. So you don't have to always come to Cabo as a fractional owner.
Mm.
You can exchange,
Yep.
you can deposit your weeks and then go and stay in any of these other.
Yeah, and it's not just the week. So you can actually pick up through the exchange program a 3-night, a 4-night, or the full 7-night vacation.
Okay.
So what a lot of our owners will do is if they're in the States, they'll just bounce around and do different things, maybe a 3-night getaway, 4-night getaway. They may tack a 7 plus a 3 to get a 10-night stay. So it's a totally flexible exchange program, and it stems from being a flexible residence club structure.
Mhm.
They have so much flexibility in how they can use the club here, and their ability to not only use it personally, if they want to put it into the rental program to help offset some of their expenses, but the exchange just really releases them from that anchor
Mhm.
so they can, do a bunch of other things. Because most people, even though they own a vacation home, are going to take vacations outside of that. So why not use the equity in your vacation home to be able to do that?
Right. What's the cost associated with the exchange? Like staying in a different property,
Hmm.
what can I expect as a fractional?
Yeah, so you're going to pay somewhere between $400 to $900 per vacation to be able to exchange your time here for something in another location.
Okay.
You're also going to pay, so that comes to Elite Alliance as part of our transaction fee. You're also going to pay whatever the prevailing housekeeping rate is at the property that you're going to, just like if an owner of another location comes here,
Yeah.
they're going to pay the housekeeping fee applicable to the vacations you deposited.
Like if I rent something on Airbnb, the host typically charges me a cleaning fee, $100, $150.
Yep.
So that would be in line with what you guys do in the exchange program.
That's right.
And here locally in Los Cabos, what are some of the properties that are in that exchange?
Yeah, we have quite a few, but I think probably some of the highlights, the Waldorf down at Pedregal, Esperanza up at Auberge. And then we've got other things peppered in throughout the corridor.
Right.
So it's a great representation, whether it be on the water, off the water, here in Cabo. Our members love it.
One of the challenges we've had in selling full ownership is a lot of the inventory is new construction, not ready to be delivered.
Uh-huh.
For example, at Oceana, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
So if someone were to buy a fractional, they're not able to use the property itself, but you've devised an opportunity where they can start using and taking advantage of the exchange program.
Yeah, so as soon as someone goes hard on a contract at Oceana, by way of example, which may not it's right now, middle of May, and may not be occupiable until October, let's say.
Mhm.
So we've got some time in between. We'll open up a membership account in the exchange program, and they'll have that opportunity. Now, obviously, they don't have anything to put in the exchange program to earn travel credits, but what we'll do is we'll open up all of our short notice inventory, which is 60 days prior to travel,
Yeah.
that they can pick those vacations up in our network, start to live the lifestyle that they're going to at Oceana, even before their property is ready.
Okay. So you mentioned $400, $700 for a week stay. That would include properties like the Waldorf Astoria?
Yeah, so basically, you're using your time that you own
Right.
as a mechanism to trade with other locations. So
Because renting over there for a hotel room
yeah,
is $1,000 a night.
yeah.
So a week-long stay is $7,000 for a hotel room. We're staying in a residence that is 2 or 3 bedrooms for what would be less than 1 night. And
Right, but
that
again,
resort.
remember that you're using
Sure.
your time at Oceana as a vehicle to get to that location.
Right.
So you are giving something to get something, just like someone else from, let's say, Tuscany is coming to Oceana. They've paid their annual assessments to come to Oceana. So you're just trading the equity in your home to be able to travel to another location, but you're still paying your annual dues
Yeah,
applicable to your property.
sure. You have properties in Tuscany,
Mm, yeah, many.
for example?
We've got stuff peppered in and around Cortona. We work with a group called the Hideaways Club, who has a bunch of things there. We've got another property in uh, Club Borgo di Valle, which we manage that property. We help sell that property as part of our exchange. So we have things peppered throughout
Okay,
Italy.
that's amazing. Um, a big thing that we talk about with full ownership clients is the ROI, the return on investment from a rental perspective. Although vacation rentals have diminished dramatically in the last couple of years, a lot more inventory, supply is higher. So the average daily rate is down, occupancy is down, and we're in an environment where we're saying to clients that want that ROI,
Yeah.
the safer bet is you're going to cover your expenses as a full ownership owner renting when you're not using the property. You came up with an interesting way to look at the ROI,
Yeah.
and it's not your traditional way of looking at it. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So we get that question all the time.
Mm.
And if someone approaches us and say, well, what's my ROI going to be
Yeah.
on a fractional residence club purchase? And their sole focus is on the rental side of it, this might not be the right product
Right.
for you. If they're looking at it more rationally, saying, what would my return on my lifestyle be? It's a vastly different conversation. So let's use that $1,000 per night model.
Mhm.
So, and using, $1,000 per night times 35 room nights is $35,000. If you were to come here and rent, that's what it would cost,
Right.
right? For that period of time, every time you came, versus what is your annual assessment going to be? $10,000. So now you're saving $25,000. You can then take that and divide it by your purchase price to come up with probably a double digit return on your investment, your lifestyle investment. So when you think about your return on investment, look at it in what am I going to be saving against my traditional out of pocket sunk cost from a rental
Right.
versus ownership.
Right.
So when you rent, you're just laying money out and it's a sunk cost. Versus ownership, you can actually save yourself for that same period of time, those 35 room nights,
Yeah.
$25,000 annually against what you would have paid, and yet you own the asset too.
I like that. So for a lot of our clients that are business owners or they're executives studying P&L statements, they're looking at being able to maximize the profit. So the profit is, do I increase revenue or do I decrease expenses or do I do both?
Mhm.
So what you're talking about is reducing the expenses, which is your cost to go on a vacation,
Those vacations,
right?
yeah.
So that savings affects your bottom line, your
Sure,
profit,
of course.
if you're looking at it from a corporation
Yeah.
or an executive level trying to effectively get a higher profit. And then you're just taking that additional savings, dividing it by the purchase price of the fraction,
Yep.
and that's where you're getting the double-digit
Return.
return on lifestyle.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a
Different
good
way
way to look
to
at it,
different
right?
way to look at it, sure, yeah.
Um, People that are considering fractional ownership will look at the annual expenditures. Can you
Yes.
talk about what typical fractional owner is expected to cover and the advantages of owning a fractional from an ongoing operational maintenance perspective versus full ownership?
Yeah, and that may be one of the biggest sales tools that we have insofar as when people look at traditional homeowners association, and many of them have either lived or know what a homeowners association covers. It's typically everything from your door outside, all the common spaces and um, i- grass clipping, all those different things. Whereas fractional ownership, residence club concept, everything is taken care of. So it creates a worry-free, stress-free
Uh-huh.
relationship with your vacation home. You don't have to worry about all the separate checks you traditionally
Right.
would have to write with whole ownership, oftentimes on a monthly basis. So things like maintenance, housekeeping, professional management, but also property tax, insurance, all your utilities, um, all your annual reserves. So when the refrigerator goes out or the couches need to be replaced and the homeowners decide, hey, we want to, freshen up the place and repaint, all of those funds have already been set aside in your annual reserves.
Yeah.
So when you look at a traditional vacation home, let's just use a 1/8 at 10,000, $80,000, that's your burden. You have to take care of that
Yeah.
versus you're spreading this out with, 7 other owners and you're not writing separate checks for all those different things. So most people when they vacation mentally want to check out. Um, they don't want to go to their vacation home and spend the first 5 days getting everything back up to where it was when they left.
Right.
Professional management does all that.
Yep.
Literally just drop the key on the front desk, say goodbye to everybody, and plan your next time you're going to come to the club.
Mhm.
And that's why fractional ownership residence club concept makes a lot more sense to what we've been marketing to. We call it the rational rich because they can afford the whole ownership price. They can't justify all the headaches that come along with it, nor can they justify putting $1 million towards the home when, $150,000, $200,000 purchase price, and they can deploy those assets somewhere else in some other investment.
But isn't it, as a fractional owner, you're paying a premium for what would be your 1/8 ownership?
Anybody can multiply by 6 or 8 or 10, so they can run the math and see that the price is going to be more if it was against whole ownership. But again, it's right sizing their ownership. It's actually taking their purchase price, which is going to be commensurate with their usage.
Right.
So they can very quickly get over that hurdle of, boy, when I multiply this by, by 6 or 8 or 10, this is more than the whole ownership. Well, yeah, sure it is, but because there's additional, cost to sell, length of time to sell, different carry costs and those types of things. But at the end of the day, what you're purchasing is going to be commensurate with what your vacations are going to be.
Sure, sure.
And for the rational, they look at it and go, this is a way better deal for me.
Yeah.
I can justify this versus the whole unit.
It's like when I don't go to Costco, but when we have someone go to Costco and buy
Costco's
stuff,
great. Why don't they
right?
go to Costco?
Well, because everything is in big containers, big volume.
Yeah, but you go in to spend 100, you leave with $500. Like,
Well,
what did I buy?
right? And then what I find is you end up going to the local OXXO or the 7-Eleven, the convenience store,
Yeah.
and I know that for that pack of gum, I'm paying maybe 50% more than if I buy a box of 20 at Costco.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same concept. I'm right sizing my purchase. Yes, I could do the math. I'm going to pay more per unit, but it's
I don't need all that gum.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also affords my lifestyle if I'm a fractional owner, from what you're saying, because I don't feel like I need to always go to the same location via
Sure.
the exchange program.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the advantages of fractional over say, a timeshare is, the asset itself is resellable
Yep.
and it can actually appreciate in value.
And totally.
Okay. So some things that I would want to know as a potential fractional owner buying into a residence club, like at Oceana, is, am I always going to use the same unit? So I like this particular unit. Its ground floor has more yard space for my dog.
Yeah.
Will I always get that unit?
You can definitely request it.
Mhm.
Management will do the best that they can to put you in that unit. But most owners would want to come to the club versus come to that unit and not come to the club, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So having the flexibility to be in any of the units within your category is usually more satisfaction to the vacationer, the homeowner, than saying, well, if you want that unit, you can't because somebody else has
Mhm.
already booked in it or reserved it or whatever. So um, I think it's actually a plus that you don't have to be in that same unit. Again, looking back, if you and I were both owners, one could go, one couldn't for a specific period of time. So this just creates more flexibility.
Okay. And if I'm a 1/8 owner in Oceana, I'm thinking 6.5 weeks, say 6 weeks of ownership. Is that the correct way to be looking at it as a 1/8 owner? Because if it's 6 weeks per 1/8 owner,
Mm.
that's only 48 weeks at the end.
Yeah,
Of
if,
the day.
if each owner used it equally, they would get 6 weeks.
Yep.
I can tell you from at least my 20 some years and my partner's 35 plus years, not every owner is going to use it equally. Go back to the country club
Mhm.
model. Um, Not everybody plays the same amount of golf every single
Right.
month.
Right.
Some are going to play twice a month and they're completely satisfied with it. That's exactly what they wanted. They're paying their pro rata share of the expenses,
Mhm.
where that means somebody else can play, 15 times a month.
Sure.
And the same concept carries here. We will have some owners that just use the club 2, 3 weeks a year, and they're very pleased with that. That's what they get. That's what they want. They're happy,
Mhm.
which means others can use it 7, 8 times a year.
So if I use it 2 weeks a year
Yep.
and someone else uses it 6 weeks a year,
Mhm.
we're still paying the same maintenance fee?
Yeah, everybody pays the same maintenance fee because everybody has equal access to the club.
Mm.
So just because you used it 2, 3 weeks this year doesn't mean next year you're not going to use it, 6, 7, 8 times if it's available. Maybe life changes, maybe you have different things. So everyone's going to pay the same amount in their maintenance fees. The only variable cost of ownership is going to be their housekeeping fee.
Okay.
Taking it back to the country club model, the only variable cost there is going to be your golf cart fee,
Mm.
right? So if I play twice a month, I pay $30 every time I play
Yeah.
for my golf cart fee.
Yeah.
Same thing if I use the club 3, 4 times a year, I'm going to pay my $200 housekeeping fee.
Mhm.
If you use it, more, then you're going to pay for your housekeeping fee.
So I'm gonna, as an owner in a club, potentially be able to use it more than 6 weeks a year.
Mhm.
For example, 12 weeks, 10
You
weeks.
could. We've had owners, as crazy as it sounds, we've had owners stay 90 days
Right.
in a club year. And you say, well, that math just doesn't work. Again, it does because some owners are going to use it less, other owners can use it more. So at the beginning of the year, at least in the model we're talking about for Oceana, each member is going to get to pick 3 weeks at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And those are the weeks that they're traditionally mapping out on their calendar, on the refridge, and they know exactly those dates that they want to go from kids' breaks or whatever. Members can pepper those throughout. They can link them together, or they can actually book 3 units for the same week.
Okay.
Okay. Once everybody's picked those, that's only 24 out of 52 weeks.
Right.
Then all owners have unlimited flexible usage thereafter.
Got it.
The caveat is they can only have one on the books at a time.
Okay.
So the minute you've checked in, you don't have one on the books, you can make another reservation.
All right.
So we'll oftentimes have owners, call down and say, is the unit available next week? Yep, great, book it. Then they call down, is the unit available next week? Yep, book it. So they'll be linking these reservations together 2, 3 weeks in a row. We're doing a really cool club down in Nicaragua on the Emerald Coast. It's at a beautiful 2,500 acre ranch. And we've got some remote workers who are doing this. They're booking one-way tickets, knowing that they're coming down in a season where there is abundance of inventory. And because it's so flexible, they're literally staying a month and a half to 2 months during that time period.
How do they do that?
Well, because again, if it's available, they can book it.
So
And
they're in residence, and
yeah,
then they're calling concierge
they're just calling reservations and asking, hey, I've checked in on my space available. Can I book this again next week? Yep, you can book it next week. Can I book it the following week? Can I book it the following week? And they just tack these vacations onto themselves. We've got some great testimonials from a couple of owners who are working remotely. And the pandemic, it was amazing because that club took off during the pandemic, and owners were like, this is the best because I can fly down here on a one-way.
Yeah.
And I know there's an abundance of inventory.
Yeah.
And I just continue to stay,
Yeah.
and they're doing their work there. So it's a home run.
It's a workation.
Workation.
We in Cabo call it a staycation.
Yeah.
And we go check into a resort, have a vacation. We're staying in our home city, but the workation is a term that I've heard, and it definitely applies in that situation.
Yeah.
All right. So you have a huge amount of flexibility in terms of usage. You can use it as little as you want, as much as you want. What are some of the other benefits as a fractional owner?
Yeah, I think the ability to deploy your cash elsewhere is probably one of the biggest. So traditional vacation home ownership, like we started with, is, you're plunking down $1 million for a house you're only going to use for a shortened period of time. So being able to take, $150,000, $200,000, buy that fractional interest in the residence club ownership and deploy the remaining cash somewhere else in other investments or other things is a smart way to do it.
Right.
You're spreading your risk completely with other owners across the board. So you're able to not only spread your expenses, but also the opportunities that you have with other resources to do. You can exchange it. You can send family and friends. You can use it personally, obviously. You can put it into the exchange program. You can rent. So there's all these different ways by which you can use it. And I think, for me, I don't own one because we're in this business, so I go to a lot of these properties, but I meet with almost all of our buyers. I talk with a lot of them. And once they realize the usage plan, how the usage works, it's like, why haven't I done this a while ago? This is a great idea. This is a great concept. And we've got, out of the 11,000, I bet you we have 400, 500 that own multiple fractions because they understand the concept so well. They just want more time. And some of them will buy multiple fractions in the same property just to have all, more usage. But I don't know, for me, it's just it's a much smarter way to handle vacation home ownership.
And yesterday, when we were with the developers of Oceana and explaining, because it's an education process, right?
You could see
oh, wait, so I'm the developer of this, but I can have my units be a part of the vacation exchange program, and I can stay in these locations. I saw the Lightbulb and like the flexibility.
Well, he was looking on our website at all those locations, and he's like, well, can I go here? Can I go here? Can I go here?
Right.
Yeah.
Mallorca is
one of them. They was like, but it's for me, it's just a lot. There's so much flexibility in what we do and how we present it that almost every time I speak with a prospective buyer and they're chipping away, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, now I get it. This is a home run. This is. We went to an international living conference in Vegas last year, and we ran into a guy who came to our booth and then went to my presentation. I did I spoke on fractional ownership. And anyways, long story short, the guy had never been to the property. He bought sight unseen. But after an hour of discussing how the whole program works, he goes, why wouldn't I do this? And I said, I don't know. That's a good question for you. Right. He fell in love with the whole concept, came down to the property, loved it, which we all kind of breathed a sigh of relief because he bought it sight unseen. But it was interesting to watch him because he was so skeptical. And then all of a sudden, after about 40 minutes, he's like, whoa, I get it now. I understand the math. I understand the whole thing. This is a home run. Let's do it. And we signed the contract at the conference. It was pretty cool.
I like your term, the rational rich.
It's not mine. My partner came up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But it makes a lot of sense.
Came up with it.
It makes a lot of sense. And it defines a lot of our clients. the clients don't end up purchasing full ownership,
Yep.
but they own many different timeshares. And this is really the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And it's, we sell some luxury properties that are in fantastic golf course communities. And the membership that you draw an analogy to, the membership usage, just the membership alone can cost $250,000, $500,000 to belong to the social and golf
Yeah.
club amenities within that community.
Sure.
And you have to buy the full ownership real estate that's multiple millions of dollars. This is buying a fractional deeded piece of real estate and then having those club-like amenities to 120 destinations around the world.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see instances like the person at the trade show in Vegas and the light bulb moments of, you ask a bunch of questions, because it's also been an education for me, asking a lot of questions, having people on our team ask a lot of questions, and realizing if you can understand the system and you can ask a lot of questions, and that's the reason for having you on the podcast, you can unlock the value and all the benefits that this has and not lose that membership value. Because in a golf club, it's always a common question with our clients. Okay, so I'm going to pay $250,000. Is that an equity membership?
Right.
And sometimes it isn't. You get 80% of the value, you turn it back in. Sometimes
it's just an initiation fee.
It's just an initiation.
One and done. Yeah.
But this is truly deeded. It's recorded at the public recorder's office here in Los Cabos, and you can sell it.
Yep.
And then you get all those benefits that, for example, a golf club membership would have.
Yep.
I would argue even more, because you have 120 options to choose from.
Right.
When you don't want to come to Los Cabos.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, when you're in residence or you're about to come, you have that short-term notice that you explained in some places, Nicaragua, where you stay. And then you just call up, hey, is next available? Is next week? And you are taking advantage of those owners that aren't using their weeks. And
that's all it is. And again, everybody, it's not like they're sidestepping any kind of rules.
No,
every owner is playing by the same set of rules. Every country club member is playing by the same set of rules. Everybody has equal access to the reservations that are available. It's just some are going to use it less, which means others can use it more. So
it's, 20 years ago, early in my real estate career here, talking to hotel people and then talking about inventory that expires. And they say, Nick, if we don't sell tonight, it's gone. We can't sell it tomorrow. So even if we discount it, we're going to discount it because that's money we otherwise wouldn't.
It's just simply yield management. Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're going to cover the maid service. We're going to cover, and so they can have a lot of price flexibility.
Sure.
And essentially you've taken that and integrated it into the exchange model and the club model.
Yeah. So with our exchange properties that are within 60 days, the likelihood of us moving that inventory is really, really diminished. So we've opened that inventory up to our 11,000 members and said, hey, if you don't want to use your currency that we've provided you from a deposit, and you still want to take these vacations, our likelihood of moving it is low. So let's give it to the owners to be able to do. And that's what we would do for the Oceana owners here before their property's ready in, say, October, November, whenever it's going to be completed. So I don't know, it's a pretty good sales tool. It's a pretty good sales incentive to provide. And really what I like about it is, from a fractional ownership perspective, because the units are completely turnkey, the immediacy of occupancy is really important to a fractional buyer.
Right.
But with this, we can't move them in immediately, but they can start to make reservations in a club-like environment in other locations and start to live that lifestyle immediately, even before their club is ready. So for me, it's a big win.
Anything else I am forgetting, Rob?
I don't think so. You touched on quite a few. Yeah.
All right.
Quite a few points.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Flying down to Cabo and being on our podcast. And everyone, if you have any questions, look me up, look Rob up, Elite Alliance. He's happy to do buyer consultation, ownership consultations to ask further questions. This is a huge move for our industry here locally in Los Cabos and beyond. So I'm excited for our partnership and
Me
our
too.
first project.
Yeah, me too. Sounds good.
All right, everyone. Till the next one. Bye for now.